How does a coach go from winning the T20 World Cup to getting fired twice and then make the most shocking comeback in cricket history? You're standing on the field holding the T20 World Cup trophy, confetti falling from the sky, players celebrating. Around you, you've just achieved what every cricket coach dreams of. You're the king of world cricket. Then just 4 months later, you get a phone call. You're fired. Not just demoted or reassigned, completely fired by the same people who were celebrating with you just months before. This is the absolutely crazy story of Phil Simmons. And trust me, you won't believe what happens next. Phil Simmons wasn't just any coach when he led the West Indies to T20 World Cup glory in 2016. He was the man who transformed a team that everyone had written off into world champions. The West Indies cricket team had been struggling for years. They were seen as a team living in the past, unable to compete with modern cricket powerhouses. But Simmons saw something different. He saw raw talent that just needed the right direction. When the T20 World Cup started in India in 2016, nobody gave the West Indies a real chance. Sure, they had some exciting players like Chris Gayle and Andre Russell, but they lacked consistency. They were known more for individual brilliance than team success. Simmons changed all of that. He built a team culture that focused on collective success rather than individual stardom. He made every player believe they could beat anyone on their day. The tournament was magical for the West Indies. They played with freedom and aggression that reminded everyone why Caribbean cricket was so special. Chris Gayle was smashing boundaries like it was a net session. Andre Russell was finishing games with his explosive batting. Dwayne Bravo was leading from the front with his captaincy. And behind all of this success was Phil Simmons, quietly orchestrating everything from the sidelines. The final against England was the stuff of legends. England had set a massive target of 155 runs. It looked impossible on that slow pitch in Kolkata. But Simmons had prepared his team for exactly these situations. He had drilled into them the belief that no target was too big if they played their natural game. Carlos Brathwaite's 4 consecutive sixes off Ben Stokes in the final over didn't just win the match. It crowned Phil Simmons as one of the smartest coaches in world cricket. When that final 6 sailed over the boundary, Simmons must have thought his career had reached its peak. He had taken an underdog team and made them world champions. The Cricket West Indies board was celebrating. The players were calling him a genius. The entire Caribbean was singing his praises. He was being talked about as one of the best coaches in the world. What could possibly go wrong? Everything went wrong. Just 4 months after that incredible triumph, in September 2016, Phil Simmons received a call that would change his life forever. The Cricket West Indies board, the same people who had been celebrating with him just months earlier, fired him. With immediate effect, not after a string of losses, not after players complained about him, not after any scandal. They fired their World Cup winning coach for reasons that nobody could properly explain. The official reasons given were vague and confusing. There were mentions of differences in philosophy and approach. Some reports suggested personality clashes with board members. Others hinted at disagreements over player selection and team management. But the real reason seemed to be politics. Caribbean cricket has always been complicated by island politics and personal agendas. Different islands have different interests. Board members have their own preferences for players from their regions. Simmons had apparently stepped on too many toes by focusing purely on cricket merit rather than political considerations. The firing sent shock waves through the cricket world. How do you fire a coach who just won you a World Cup? International cricket experts were baffled. Former players were outraged. Even rival coaches expressed their surprise. It seemed like sporting insanity. Here was a man who had delivered the biggest prize in T20 cricket, and he was being treated like a failure. For Simmons, it must have been devastating. Imagine working your entire career to reach the top of your profession, achieving the ultimate success, and then being told you're not wanted anymore. The rejection wasn't just professional, it was personal. The West Indies cricket team wasn't just any job for him. As a former West Indies player himself, this was his home. These were his people. Being rejected by them must have felt like a betrayal of the deepest kind. The years that followed were tough for Simmons. He found himself in the coaching wilderness. Other cricket boards were hesitant to hire a coach who had been fired by his own cricket board, even if the reasons didn't make sense. There's always a stigma attached to being fired regardless of the circumstances. Cricket is a small world and word travels fast. If the West Indies board didn't want him, maybe there was something others didn't know about. But Simmons didn't give up. He took on smaller coaching roles. He worked with various teams and franchises. He never stopped learning and improving his craft. During this period, he must have done a lot of soul-searching. What had gone wrong? How could he have handled things differently? What did he need to change about his approach to succeed at the highest level again? The cricket world moves fast and memories are short. By 2019, the Cricket West Indies board had changed. New administrators were in place. The team was struggling again. Results were poor and fans were unhappy. The board started looking around for solutions, and suddenly Phil Simmons' name came up again. The same people who had fired him 3 years earlier began to wonder if maybe they had made a mistake. In a move that shocked everyone, including probably Simmons himself, Cricket West Indies decided to bring him back. They offered him the coaching job again. It was an unprecedented situation in international cricket. How often does a cricket board fire a coach and then rehire him 3 years later? It was an admission that the original firing had been wrong. It was a second chance that most coaches never get. Simmons accepted the role, but he must have done so with mixed feelings. On one hand, it was vindication. It proved that his coaching abilities were valued. On the other hand, it was the same organization that had treated him so poorly before. Could he trust them again? Would the same politics and personal agendas interfere with his work? These were questions he would soon find answers to. His second stint with the West Indies started well. The team showed improvement under his guidance. Young players were developing nicely. The senior players responded positively to his return. There was a sense that maybe this time things would be different. Maybe the board had learned from their mistakes. Maybe Simmons could build something special again. The 2021 T20 World Cup showed promise. The West Indies didn't win, but they played competitive cricket. They showed the fighting spirit that Simmons always tried to instill in his teams. It seemed like he was slowly rebuilding the team culture that had brought success in 2016. Fans were starting to believe again. The future looked bright. But cricket is an unpredictable sport. Form can change quickly. Confidence can evaporate overnight. Team dynamics can shift without warning. By 2022, things started going wrong again for the West Indies under Simmons. The team was inconsistent. Young players weren't developing as expected. Senior players were struggling with form and fitness. The 2022 T20 World Cup in Australia became a nightmare for both Simmons and the West Indies. This was supposed to be their chance to show they were still a force in T20 cricket. They were the defending champions from 2016. They had experience and talent, but everything that could go wrong did go wrong. The team that had once been world champions couldn't even make it past the first round. They lost to Scotland. They lost to Ireland. These weren't just defeats. They were humiliating losses that exposed fundamental problems with the team. The batting was fragile. The bowling lacked penetration. The fielding was sloppy. Most damaging of all, the team looked like they had given up before they even started. This wasn't the West Indies cricket that fans remembered. This wasn't the team that Simmons had led to glory 6 years earlier. After the tournament, Simmons used a word that perfectly captured the situation. He called the team's performance unfathomable. It was unfathomable that a team with so much talent could perform so poorly. It was unfathomable that the same coach who had won the World Cup could oversee such a disaster. It was unfathomable that West Indies cricket had fallen so far. Simmons knew he had to take responsibility. In December 2022, he resigned from his position as West Indies coach. It wasn't a firing this time. It was his decision to step down. He had given everything he could to the team, but it wasn't enough. The resignation was painful, but it was also a sign of his integrity. He wasn't going to cling to a job when he felt he couldn't deliver the results the team needed. At 61 years old, many people would have considered retirement. Simmons had already achieved more than most coaches ever do. He had won a World Cup. He had coached at the highest level for decades. He had nothing left to prove to anyone, but retirement wasn't an option for him. He still had the fire to coach. He still believed he could contribute to cricket. He just needed the right opportunity. Opportunity came from an unexpected source. Bangladesh cricket had been going through their own coaching changes. They had fired Chandika Hatharusingha due to disciplinary issues. They needed an experienced coach who could step in quickly and stabilize the team. They needed someone who understood the pressures of international cricket and could handle difficult situations. In October 2024, Bangladesh Cricket Board made a call that surprised many cricket fans. They appointed Phil Simmons as their new coach. It wasn't just any appointment. This was a coach who had been written off by many after his West Indies resignation. This was a man who many thought was finished at the highest level of cricket. Bangladesh was giving him a lifeline when others wouldn't. The appointment was initially seen as a short-term solution. Simmons was given a contract until the 2025 Champions Trophy. It was essentially a trial period. Bangladesh wanted to see if he still had what it takes to coach at international level. They wanted to see if the Phil Simmons who won the T20 World Cup was still there, or if the coach who resigned after the 2022 disaster was all that remained. But something magical started happening in Bangladesh cricket under Simmons' guidance. The team began showing signs of improvement. Players responded well to his coaching methods. His experience and calm demeanor helped stabilize a team that had been going through turbulent times. The Bangladesh Cricket Board started seeing positive changes in team culture and performance. By early 2025, it became clear that Simmons was having a positive impact. The short-term appointment was working better than anyone had expected. Players were developing under his guidance. The team was showing more consistency in their performances. Most importantly, there was a renewed sense of belief and professionalism in the Bangladesh setup. Recognizing his contribution, Bangladesh Cricket Board made a decision that completed one of cricket's most remarkable comeback stories. They extended Simmons' contract through the 2027 ODI World Cup. This wasn't just a short-term fix anymore. This was a long-term commitment to a coach who had proved he could still deliver at the highest level. For Simmons, this contract extension represents the ultimate vindication. At an age when most coaches are thinking about retirement, he has not only returned to international coaching, but secured a long-term role with a team that believes in his abilities. The coach who was once fired after winning a World Cup, who resigned in disappointment after a World Cup disaster, is now trusted with building a cricket program for the next 3 years. The Bangladesh appointment shows that Simmons learned valuable lessons from his West Indies experiences. He understands now that coaching international cricket isn't just about tactics and training. It's about managing egos, handling pressure, dealing with politics, and building sustainable success. His approach with Bangladesh has been more measured and diplomatic than in his previous roles. What makes this comeback even more remarkable is the context of modern cricket coaching. The sport has become more demanding than ever. Coaches face constant scrutiny from media and fans. Job security is almost non-existent. One bad series can end a coaching career. Social media amplifies every mistake. In this environment, very few coaches get second chances, let alone third chances. Simmons' story is also remarkable because of what it says about resilience and self-belief. Many people would have been broken by the experiences he went through. Being fired after success, failing publicly at the World Cup, resigning in disappointment, these are career-ending moments for many coaches. But Simmons never lost faith in his abilities. He never stopped believing that he could contribute to cricket at the highest level. The transformation from his lowest point in 2022 to his current success with Bangladesh shows what's possible when talent meets opportunity. Simmons didn't just get lucky with this appointment. He earned it through his experience, his professionalism, and his continued dedication to improving as a coach. Bangladesh didn't hire him out of charity. They hired him because they believed he was the right person for the job. Looking at his journey with Bangladesh, it's clear that Simmons has evolved as a coach. He's bringing the tactical knowledge and championship experience from his West Indies days, but he's combining it with a more mature understanding of team management. He's working within the Bangladesh cricket system rather than trying to completely overhaul it. He's building relationships rather than making demands. The success with Bangladesh also validates Simmons' coaching philosophy. His belief in aggressive, positive cricket hasn't changed. His emphasis on building team culture remains central to his approach. His focus on developing individual players while maintaining team unity is still his strength. What's changed is his understanding of how to implement these ideas in different cultural and organizational contexts. As we move through 2025, Phil Simmons represents one of cricket's most inspiring comeback stories. From the heights of World Cup glory to the depths of public resignation, and now to renewed success with Bangladesh, his journey shows that in cricket, as in life, it's not about how many times you fall down. It's about how many times you get back up. The fact that he's now contracted until 2027 means this story is far from over. Simmons has the opportunity to build something special with Bangladesh cricket. He can take a team that has always been seen as underdogs and help them compete with the world's best. He can develop the next generation of Bangladesh cricketers. He can prove that his World Cup winning credentials weren't just a one-time achievement. Most importantly, Phil Simmons has proved that age is just a number in coaching. At 61, when many of his contemporaries are enjoying retirement, he's embracing new challenges and finding new ways to contribute to cricket. His story reminds us that experience, when combined with adaptability and resilience, remains one of the most valuable assets in professional sport. Cricket world will be watching closely as Simmons continues his journey with Bangladesh. Can he help them achieve their first major tournament success? Can he develop them into a consistently competitive international team? Can he add another World Cup to his coaching resume? These questions will define the next chapter of one of cricket's most remarkable coaching careers. For now, Phil Simmons has already achieved something that seemed impossible just 2 years ago. He has gone from coaching resignation to long-term contract. He has transformed from cricket outcast to trusted leader. He has proved that in cricket, the most unbelievable comebacks are often the most inspiring stories of all. Subscribe now to discover more shocking cricket comebacks that nobody saw coming.